What is experimental film?
Oh, look, to be honest, I love experimental cinema. I'd rather watch bad experimental cinema than to watch a half-assed, like, you know, classical narrative piece of filmmaking. Because I think, you know, with an experimental cinema, it's actually pushing you, the audience, on a different level. And it's speaking to you and asking you to kind of receive and engage with the film on, like, many different levels. For instance, even just purely your senses. And I'm not talking about, like, logical sense and, you know, beginning, middle and end, yes. And as someone who looks like they came from a Godardian film, like, you know what I mean by that, you know, mess it up, right? I mean, we want all those things in a film, but not necessarily in that order. An experimental film might be the middle, and that's all it is, constantly the middle. If you want to take it kind of on an international level, you know, there's really amazing, great filmmakers out there like Stan Brakhage. I was only talking about him today. He's like one of the godfathers of experimental cinema. Yeah, I mean, he touches my soul, and he, like, his films, they breathe life, they are life, and I love the way his films allow me to kind of, like, turn inside and not kind of, like, get all egotistical and narcissistic, even though I'm wearing a Elvis wig, but more about, like, just me as part of the universe and, yeah, part of the kind of collective whole.
So why do you think people are adverse to experimental film?
They're scared, they're frightened. They're afraid of what, like, experimental film might make them feel or think. I mean, it's easier to go home at night and turn on the television at the same time and watch that episode of Home and Away, you know? And, I mean, with something like Home and Away, this is kind of media that doesn't make you think. Yeah? It doesn't want to make you think. It wants to kind of lull you into some kind of, like, sleepwalking state. I mean, that kind of, like, media really frightens me, and I think, you know, what is it doing? If you are tuning into a soap opera every night of the week, okay, maybe not the weekends, you know, I've got mail, but you are actually, it's, for me, it takes away my life, it takes away my time, and you're living through superficially other kind of you know, ongoing characters and promises that will never be delivered, yeah, in regards to one's own life. It's highly unlikely, you know, and these kind of dreams that people kind of reach towards because of something like Hollywood, yeah, the unattainable. But, you know, experimental film does, it maybe reminds you that it's not going to be all hunky-dory, but this is not a negative thing. It's actually a life-affirming experience.
Yeah. Where do you see experimental film going from here?
Well, firstly, experimental cinema and film, it doesn't, you know, think about the future or the past. It is about the moment. I think that's really important, because when we are engaging and spectating with some kind of film, some kind of screen production, you know, there is that kind of somnambulism that I was talking about earlier, but yeah, it's about, like, being in the present tense, being in the present moment, which I think is a powerful thing, because often we aren't, as, you know, humans in this kind of contemporary time and culture. You know, I'll have someone call me on the mobile phone, and, you know, the person in front of me suddenly is more distance than the person that I'm on the phone with. So I think there's this importance in regards to this kind of form and genre to reconnect people with each other. But in regards to, okay, how might it look, or what way will it be in the future? In some ways, I don't think it's changed very much at all. And the only kind of change in, you know, looking at it in terms of how it might be different is, I guess, through the technology, how the technology may be, and the platforms allow some new possibilities. So, like interactivity, for instance, there's a lot of, like, video art, those kinds of, I don't know, I don't really feel good about that one, hey. When you used to ask what was experimental cinema and film, you know, there would be kind of reoccurring styles and techniques, and I think these are kind of persisted. So whether you want to call it a genre or something now, it is quite recognisable. And the fact is that, you know, mainstream culture is like, it's a cannibal, you know, and you turn on the TV and you watch an ad basically that was influenced or kind of like, you know, it got its ideas from some kind of experimental film from the past. You know, music videos, you know, what are music videos? They are like basically platforms, productions to sell. Sell the band, sell the song. I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but what I'm saying is this is an everyday, you know, mainstream kind of genre that we see, that we're all familiar with, and yet they pillage, you know, experimental techniques. So I think experimentalism is actually in the mainstream, but it's being like, I guess it's being used in a way that perhaps doesn't have the soul, intentions, philosophy of like hardcore experimental filmmakers.
What are the origins of experimental film?
Where the origins? Where did it start? At one moment, that's pretty impossible to, I think, put your finger on. I mean, we don't even know really. I mean, there's stories of the beginnings of cinema. I mean, they talk about Thomas Edison, Lumiere brothers. However, there were many, many kind of like pioneers, in that race to kind of make the movies, produce the movies. But I think the very first moment, because here was a new medium, and what can you do with something that's new other than like explore it, and to have that sense of experimentation, to try something. I mean, experimental as a genre, if you want to call it that, or a form, a technique. But I think essentially it's important for filmmakers as they're emerging, as they're like starting out, to actually experiment, because that's how one finds oneself, finds oneself as a filmmaker and realizes what they want to kind of make. Even Tarantino experimented somewhere. I don't know. Please don't add in that bit about Tarantino. Fucking screw Tarantino. People talk about him enough. Or you can add that in, but like beep out the swearing shit.
Okay.
There's convention and there's invention. And experimental cinema pushes the envelope. It's invention. That stuff that we see, soap opera, same time, every, that's time slot. Not our time slot now. But yeah, soap opera, that's convention. Puts me to sleep.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Oh, God.
So, that's it.